Hey homies, what's good? It's the Tominator, and this time around I wanted to do something a little different and talk about training. Because I don't know about you, but I watch a lot of the pro bodybuilder training footage here on YouTube as motivation to sort of help fuel my own workouts, and I'm sure a lot of you guys do the same. And inevitably, when you scroll down to the comments section of some of these vids, you always seem to find some keyboard warriors complaining about how their form sucks, or they're not doing the exercise right, yada yada yada, despite the fact these are proven professionals with way more muscle than any of us could ever dream of, so obviously whatever they're doing is working for them. But specifically what I wanted to address here today is why many top bodybuilders don't tend to use a full range of motion, and why that's not only okay, but in some cases it's actually ideal. It's been said before, but it bears repeating that bodybuilding is not powerlifting, okay? So there are no strict rules about what constitutes an acceptable lift, and it really doesn't matter at the end of the day, because the goal is to build muscle and sculpt the body, not to move X amount of weight from point A to point B. So if a guy can get away doing half reps on squats and still build a 6 set of wheels, more power to him. And one of the first things you'll probably notice when watching a lot of these massive pros working out is that they rarely perform a full range of motion. Locking out is rather rare, and oftentimes they only seem to execute half, maybe 3/4 of any given movement. Victor Martinez, former Arnold Classic champion and Olympia runner-up, provides a very good explanation for this.
Now, you see, this machine is fixed. All you have to do pretty much is push it down. One of the biggest mistakes most people make on this machine is going way too high, sitting down and extending way too high. See, if I sit down, basically this high on the machine, putting too much pressure on my chest and rotator cuff. We're working tricep, the same way you would do close grip benches. Again, without touching your chest, keeping it about, you know, maybe about 3 inches away from your chest. Same thing you want to think about doing the push down machine. Feel every set, every rep. And when I extend, I'm getting that positive. I want to be in control, negative and positive. Don't let the weights control you.
And that's just one example. Obviously, the same logic applies to other muscle groups as well, because the name of the game when it comes to bodybuilding is time under tension. You want to keep that target muscle constantly engaged, never allowing it to rest at any point during the set, and this allows you to really isolate the muscle, flushing it full of blood, getting that awesome pump going, and ultimately, over time, this style of training will help to develop that all-important mind-muscle connection. Another reason is something Victor also alluded to, and that has to do with avoiding injury. It's no secret that we're weakest at the bottom part of many exercises, whether it's bench press or squats or dips, and consequently, this is where injuries are most likely to occur. So the benefit to fully extending on something like preacher curls, for example, is typically not worth the risk. You'd be better off stopping a couple inches short of full extension to avoid unnecessary strain on the biceps and the associated tendons, especially on those final heavy sets. On the other end of the spectrum are things like pressing movements, where there's little benefit to fully locking out. All that's really doing is giving the muscles a rest at the top and shifting all the stress onto the joints. This approach is hardly anything new either. Arnold mentions way back in the original edition of his Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding that he started incorporating 3/4 rep ranges on bench press in order to keep the tension on the chest and off of the triceps. Now, while it's generally true that old school bodybuilders tended to go through a fuller range of motion than most of these modern day mass monsters today, you can still see that even way back in the 70s they saw the wisdom of incorporating partial reps. Steve Kuklo takes it one step further by stopping short at the bottom as well.
Good. Up. Good. Come on. Up. Good. Up. There you go. Easy. Come on. Good. Up. Good. Up. One of the keys I've been working on is try to build up my chest to get more depth to my side shots when I'm posing, is incline barbell press.
The biggest thing to this I've noticed help increase my upper chest is minimizing my range of motion a bit and not going super low, not extending all the way up. And what that does is help keeping the tension in the more I actually feel on my chest, because I'm a shoulder dominant guy, I'm tricep dominant, so those like to take over during the movement. So ideally what I like to do is try to find that sweet spot that is only chest.
And lastly, this brings me to the final point, which is probably the least important, but still worth noting. And this is that partial reps allow you to go heavier. It's pretty simple when you think about it. If we're weakest at the extreme ends of the lift, whether it's the bottom for squats and bench, or the top for rows and leg extensions, then if you take that part of the movement out of the equation, you remove the weak link in the chain and can effectively lift more weight. Now, I can already hear some of the protests claiming that doing partial reps is not optimal for muscle growth, since you won't recruit as many fibers or something along those lines, or that it's bad for your flexibility and will leave you muscle bound. As well as other idiotic remarks like, it's cheating, and a few played out memes like, zero, and bullshit like that. So those last two types of comments don't even warrant a response. But as far as the first two are concerned, I would say that it would only be bad for flexibility or lead to less muscle growth if you didn't include enough variety of exercises to fully stimulate the muscle over the course of a workout. That's why bodybuilders usually do at least 3 or 4 exercises per body part to really hit the muscle from different angles and work it along its entire range of motion. For example, say you're training chest and you decide you're not going to lock out on the bench press, so you're not really stimulating much of the inner portion of the pecs there, but that's why you throw in some pec deck flies or cable crossovers afterwards. And I know some people are going to say, that's a load of bro science, bro. Studies have proven you can't isolate the inner pecs, bro. Well, yeah, no shit, Sherlock. We're not talking about isolating, though. We're talking about concentrating, emphasizing. This isn't an all-or-nothing game, and it doesn't take a genius to realize that certain exercises will naturally stress different areas of the muscle better than others. If this wasn't the case, then you might as well just do 1 exercise per body part and call it a day. Likewise, same goes for flexibility as well. Maybe you're following Victor's advice and not going all the way up on the dip machine. So, oh shit, does that mean you're not going to be working the tricep through its full range of motion? Won't that leave you muscle bound? No, because that's why we throw in something like overhead tricep extensions to really get that full stretch and work that part of the range. Some exercises are good for the stretch, whereas others are more about the contraction. You get what I'm saying here? So that's the deal with partial reps, guys. It's not necessarily being lazy or cheating or performing the exercise wrong. It's actually a perfectly valid strategy to keep tension on the target muscle and help preserve the joints and avoid injury in the long run. Now, admittedly, some of these pros can go a little overboard doing only half reps when they could be doing like 3/4, and some of them do have pretty questionable form beyond that can be hard to defend, but I hope this at least explains the theory behind partial reps and why they do it. Alright, hopefully most of that made some sense, and let me know if you want to see more training-related vids like this, because I've got another one lined up ready to go for next week, before we shift focus to the upcoming Arnold Classic competition. But regardless, thank you all for watching, and until next time, I'm the Tominator, signing off, and I'll be back.